She is the daughter of a wealthy landowner, determined to break through social class barriers. A man lured her with nothing but an empty promise of a noblewoman's title, and she willingly became his secret lover, only for him to heartlessly abandon her once he got what he wanted. Yet she was neither angry nor discouraged. Instead, she immediately set her sights on the man's older brother. Who she married never mattered to her. What mattered was the other person's title.
You could marry me.
I have to marry a virgin. I can't stand criticism.
For the money, I mean...
Faced with Karen's extravagant dowry of 6,000 acres of pasture, the Baron, who had already squandered his family fortune, gladly agreed. Driven by her longing for the title of Baroness, Karen set off alone for Africa to get married, bringing with her a carriage full of crystal and porcelain. And this would mark the beginning of a turning point in her destiny. After days of exhausting travel, she finally arrived at her destination, only to find that her fiancé had sent just a single black butler to greet her. Surrounded by people of different dress and skin color, Karen felt increasingly uneasy. When she finally reached the club where her husband was staying, she was met with unfriendly looks from her fellow countrymen, who shared her skin color.
Yes, I wondered if you might tell me where I would.
Mapuz must not be here.
Well, I'm simply looking for someone.
Mapuz must not be here.
Karen came to the hall feeling a little depressed, and her fiancé also came in a hurry. He apologized insincerely, saying that he had not prepared the wedding ring yet, and the wedding would be held in an hour.
1 hour?
The wedding was so rushed it felt like a joke. Even the officiant forgot the bride's name.
What's your name, my dear?
Karen Christiansdottir.
What Karen truly needed wasn't marriage itself, but the social status and confidence that came with a noble title. Even when she saw her husband flirting with other women at the wedding, she didn't really care. But when she arrived at the villa she had bought in the countryside, and learned that her inexperienced husband had turned the ranch into a coffee plantation, she finally showed rare anger.
Next time you change your mind, you absolutely do it with your own money from now on.
Karen treated this marriage as a business deal, but her husband was clearly not a competent partner. The next day, he took people out hunting, leaving word that he would return when it rained.
Is it going to rain today?
It could be many days before the rains come.
Faced with such an irresponsible partner, Karen had no choice but to manage the coffee plantation on her own. She first planned the planting area according to the harvest schedule, and then found the local tribal chief to hire workers. She also tried to use European customs to civilize her servants, making them wear white gloves. Sometimes at night, she would also feel a touch of loneliness. Until one day, Karen decided to take her rifle and go out alone to clear her mind. For the first time, she truly experienced the vitality and abundance of this land, but at the same time, she realized that beauty and danger coexisted here. Suddenly, the horse broke free from its reins and ran off, and a low growl sounded behind her lioness, with blood still in her mouth, was slowly approaching. If you do that, she'll think you're something tasty to eat. Pat her gently. She had breakfast. Karen turned her head and realized that the man was someone she had met once before. On the way here, the train had to stop midway because of him. When she saw him place 2 ivory tusks on board, Karen became even more curious, so she greeted him as the Baroness.
I am Baroness Clayton.
Not yet. It's here, Dennis.
Karen invited Dennis and his friend to her home as guests, and to her surprise, she found that she got along with him exceptionally well. They both shared a passion for poetry and literature, and had an animated conversation about the rhymes in poetry. As the son of an earl, Dennis had exiled himself to Africa, where he had witnessed the vastness of the world, the depth of valleys, and the diversity of humanity. He exuded a romantic and free-spirited aura, much like a poet, and in Denise's eyes, Karen was no longer the stereotypical noble lady he had first met. She possessed an incredibly rich inner world. Given a simple story prelude, he can weave a magnificent chapter that makes people feel as if they are in it.
Have you been to those places?
I have been a man to travel for quite some time, indeed. Certainly, without a doubt.
In each other, they saw a different possibility, one that they themselves could never become.
Write them down sometime.
This resonance of souls left Karen both captivated and afraid.
Take care of each other, please.
You'd actually rather call me Dennis.
Holding the pen Dennis had given her, her lonely soul swayed violently between the shackles of morality and the longing for freedom. Karen was afraid that these feelings would upend the order of her life, so when the rain stopped, she intercepted her husband, whose hunt had been cut short. In the rain, she boldly confessed her love, trying to use a conventional marriage to fight against her inner turmoil, and hoping to complete her family through having a child. However, not long after, as war broke out over the scramble for colonies, her husband, ignoring her pleas, insisted on joining the conflict. Karen could only continue to endure her loneliness while managing the farm. And this scorching land was also slowly melting her. She would set aside her airs as a noblewoman and greet the warm-hearted old ladies. She also began, to the astonishment of the natives, to kneel on the ground herself and plant seedlings, and would even bandage the wounds of those who were injured but refused treatment. The children from the tribe would gather at the villa's entrance to marvel at the curious objects she brought, and she would simply smile knowingly at the commotion outside. Until one day, her husband sent word, asking Karen to inventory some supplies and have them delivered to Lake Natron at the front lines. And to prevent the natives from causing trouble while the men were away, the women and children were also to be temporarily sent back to the city.
Women and children. Baroness.
Where is Lake Natron?
Well, it's south, that's for sure. Which country?
Karen was unwilling to have her value dismissed like that, so she resolutely decided to personally lead the team to deliver the supplies. However, the route turned out to be even more difficult than she had imagined, and the primitive landscape lacked clear markers, causing the convoy to head in the wrong direction. When they stopped to rest at night, Karen felt a bit guilty, but the Black Butler kept reassuring her, saying that God would provide guidance. Unexpectedly, the next morning, while everyone was still asleep, they were suddenly surrounded and charged by a group of horsemen. Karen was a bit flustered, and to her surprise, the leader of the horsemen turned out to be Dennis, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. He and his friend were also heading to the battlefield. When his friend heard that Karen was also going to the front lines, he strongly urged her to turn back immediately, insisting that the front was no place for a woman.
I'm going on. Well, you know Barclay.
Talk to her, will you?
No,
She could be hurt or worse.
I imagine she probably knows that.
Dennis respected and admired Karen's decision, but unfortunately, they were not headed in the same direction. He handed Karen a compass, then bid her farewell once again. Karen also adjusted her course and set out anew. However, just as one crisis subsided, another arose. That night, two lions attacked the herd of cattle transporting supplies. In the chaos, Karen had no time to think. He took a whip and separated the economy, and then he took a whip and separated the economy regardless of the danger. She took a whip and drove off lions. Karen's bold and fearless demeanor deeply shocked and impressed the natives who had rushed over behind her, and seeing the number of people increase, the lion finally fled in panic. After confirming that the herd of cattle was unharmed, Karen let out a sigh of relief. When the frontline leader saw the dust-covered supply team, his face was filled with disbelief.
Tell Blix his wife's here.
Everyone who had gathered instinctively made way. Karen, sitting on horseback, looked nothing like a baroness, yet her presence plunged the entire crowd into silence. Their eyes were filled with shock and astonishment. Her husband, however, showed a hint of approval, while Karen remained calm and composed throughout.
Hello, Rue. I've brought you some things.
You've changed your hair.
Inside the tent, her husband refused Karen's request for her to go home. Karen also admitted frankly that she couldn't escape worldly desires. She began to long for a complete marriage and said she would wait for him at the farm until he returned from the front. After reaching an understanding, the two gave in to their desires in the moment. But when Karen returned home, the first thing she encountered was not her husband, but the syphilis he had contracted from his affairs with other women. At that time, the only treatment for this disease was arsenic, using poison to fight poison, and even then, the chances of a cure were only 50%. Karen had no choice but to return to her hometown in Denmark to recuperate. Her husband, whose symptoms were milder, apologized to her and said he could go back with her to take care of her, but Karen only asked him to stay and take care of the farm. As she was about to leave, she ran into Dennis again. He was still as free-spirited as ever, but she didn't dare to admit that she was ill.
I still have your compass.
Why don't you keep it? You've earned it.
After agreeing to write another story together the next time they met, Karen set off for Denmark alone. There, arsenic became her ally, fighting alongside her against that formidable enemy. During this time, she missed that land deeply, longing for its vibrant colors and the warm, sincere people who lived there. Her resilience ultimately helped to overcome the illness, but at the same time, she lost the ability to have children. When people saw Karen return here, they immediately rushed over to greet her. Children ran up to her, presenting an owl as a welcome gift. A boy from the tribe also showed off the wound she had helped bandage before she left. During her absence, the black housekeeper also made sure to keep the room spotless. To repay the warmth of the local people, Karen decided to help them in a European way. But when news spread at the New Year's ball that she planned to open a school in the area, it was met with ridicule and sarcasm. Just as a conflict was about to break out, Dennis suddenly appeared and pulled her away. They moved to the music together, but to her surprise, Dennis also disagreed with her rescue plan. He believed that the natives had their own way of life, and what they needed was respect, not forced transformation.
I want my Kikuyu to learn to read.
My Kikuyu? My Limoges? My farm? That's an awful lot to own, isn't it?
I have paid a price for everything I own.
What exactly is it that belongs to you? We're not owners here, Karen. We're just passing through.
Is life really so damn simple for you, Finch Hat?
Perhaps I ask less.
I don't believe that at all.
Their ideas diverged, but it was precisely in these differences that they were drawn to each other. On the way back, Karen found a woman's underwear in her husband's car. She no longer had any expectations for this marriage, so she took the initiative to propose a separation. Her husband, feeling guilty, agreed to it as well. In the days that followed, Karen devoted herself wholeheartedly to running the farm. She busied herself in those lush green fields, drying beans by hand, and savoring the joy of a good harvest. The teaching program she had been preparing also got off to a smooth start. Day after day, she worked late into the night, until one day, Dennis came to see her. He had found a job leading hunting trips, and invited Karen to be his first client. With him, Karen embarked on a brand new, magical journey. They both shared a curiosity about the world. He took her aside to hide and play the gramophone, watching as the vervet monkeys were drawn toward the trap by the sound of Mozart. In the afternoons, he would rinse her long hair with clear water, sunlight filtering through the dappled leaves, turning their unspoken feelings into a gentle warmth that flowed between them. Along the way, they were even stalked by a lioness. Karen was no longer as she once was. Instead, she seized the opportunity and decisively fired her gun. At night, they lit a campfire deep in the savannah, even in the most barren wilderness. They insisted on setting up a grand and romantic dinner. Karen candidly admitted that she had suffered from syphilis and could no longer have children, but Deanies never cared about any of that.
I know,
Why am I here?
because I wanted you to see all of this for yourself, to truly understand. I wanted to show it to you. I thought you'd understand it.
That night, they confirmed their feelings for each other, and from then on, they spent a wonderful time together. Denies would describe what he saw and experienced during his travels, and Karen would respond with enthusiasm. Once, she flew the plane she had just learned to pilot, taking him to see the vastness of the African land. Karen truly witnessed the greatness of this land. The green grasslands looked like frozen waves, the migrating animals resembled flowing poetry, and the winding rivers seemed like the lifeblood of the earth. When tens of thousands of red-winged birds took flight in flocks from the sunlit surface of the lake, they held each other's hands tightly in the sky, simply overjoyed to be able to share such a breathtaking scene together. At first, Dennis's free-spirited and unrestrained soul deeply attracted Karen, but as time went by, it gradually became a source of torment for her. She never knew when he would show up, nor when he would leave. So all she could do was focus on her own business day after day, managing everything around her. Until one day, her husband came looking for her, and she had found someone wealthier, so she wanted to end their marriage. Karen was afraid that she would lose both her marriage and fail to keep Dennis's untamable heart, ending up with nothing in the end. So when Dennis returned from his travels again, he began to seriously discuss the future with her, but he believed that marriage itself was meaningless.
I'd just really like for someone, anyone, to actually ask me just once. That's all I want. Please promise me you'll do that for me. If I, in return, promise to say no.
Just honestly trust you, huh?
Dennis had an extraordinary set of values. He never imposed his own will on anyone, nor was he willing to lose his freedom just to cater to someone else's wishes, even if the price he paid was loneliness, solitude, or quietly withering away.
I won't be any closer to you. I won't love you more just because of a piece of paper.
One of them was obsessed with not being defined, while the other longed for the security of being defined through marriage, and so they began to argue again and again.
How about I don't need you?
You don't need me? If I die, will you die? You don't need me. You're confused. You mix up need with want. You always have.
My God, in the world you would create, there would be no love at all.
Well, the best kind. The kind we wouldn't have to prove.
There are some things in life that are truly worth having, but they always come at a price, and I want to be one of those particular things myself. I won't allow it, Denise.
This relationship inevitably ended in a breakup. As another harvest season arrived, Karen's longing for Dennis gradually subsided. She watched as coffee prices kept dropping, saw the pond she had planned washed away by heavy rain, and watched the chief take away the children who had been studying. She gradually lost a lot, but also saw through a lot. That day, a sudden fire destroyed everything she had worked so hard to build over the years. Her face was flushed red by the firelight, but there was no sign of disappointment or frustration. She simply let out a long sigh. The fire burned away everything she had, but it also took with it her obsession with material possessions.
All gone.
After going bankrupt, Karen's land would be reclaimed by the government. When her friends heard the news and came to comfort her, her reaction was unexpected.
We're just out of coffee, but I can give you tea.
Karen sold off the last of her belongings and prepared to return to Denmark. Although she had lost everything material, her sense of responsibility for this land had not disappeared. Before leaving, she went everywhere trying to find a new place for the natives to settle, but without exception, she was turned down. Karen did not give up. For the last time as Baroness, she made her request to the new governor at his inauguration ceremony. After being refused again, she resolutely knelt down in front of everyone. She had once wanted to transform this place with European civilization, but now she was forced to kneel just to preserve a piece of land. However, the governor remained unmoved and was about to have her removed.
Wait. Give her a moment, please.
Not wanting to embarrass Denis, the governor said he would consider it.
May I have your word, sir? You have mine. Thank you. I hope you will be happy here. I was. I'm sorry I won't get to know you.
At night, Karen, feeling apologetic, took off the white glove she had worn in her attempt to civilize her servants. She slowly came to understand what Dennis meant by just a passerby, and realized that true respect is letting go of the arrogance of wanting to change others. And Karen's efforts during the day to secure land for the natives also made Dennis realize, even as he rejected all forms of restraint, that responsibility is part of freedom. So he suggested that they leave this place together.
Would that be all right for you?
I've got this little thing that I've learned to do lately. When it gets so bad, and I think when I'm absolutely certain that I can't possibly stand it any longer, I tell myself to go just one moment more. Somehow, I find the strength to keep going, and in that moment I realize that I can bear anything that comes my way.
They agreed that after Dennis finished his current affairs, they would leave together on Friday. Their farewell this time was completely different from before. Dennis promised he would return on time, while Karen no longer pressed him about when he would be back. But when the agreed day arrived, she waited and waited, but Dennis never showed up. The plane she was flying crashed on the grasslands she loved, completing the fated cycle of being born free and dying free. At Dennis's funeral, Karen took with her only a handful of earth from the place where he now rested. This man who was born for freedom ultimately found eternal rest on this land, becoming a martyr for freedom. On the day she left, a member of the club approached Karen and wanted to share a drink with her.
Who is we?
Well, the members, actually.
As Karen walked into the club, the members who had once turned her away all stood up. Amidst the astonished gazes of the onlookers, these men who once thought so highly of themselves all raised their glasses to her.
Rose-lipped maidens, light-foot lads.
Cheers. You.
When she arrived, she was refused entry despite her title as Baroness. When she left, without that title, she had instead earned respect through her own experiences. Just as she was about to board the train, Karen turned to look at the butler who had always addressed her as Madam.
I want to hear you say my name.
You are Karen Lee, that is to say, in this scenario.
She walked alone toward the train filled with memories. It seemed as if she had been mercilessly let down by time, but in truth, she had touched everything and already received the most profound blessing of fate. When she first arrived in Africa, she possessed everything that society could offer. She needed to define herself through the title of Baroness and refine material symbols. But in the end, after losing everything, she earned respect through resilience, kindness, and responsibility. What she took with her when she left was not any material wealth, but a spiritual treasure trove that would sustain her for the rest of her life. This film, adapted from the novel of the same name, was created by Karen after she left Africa. With a pen Dennis gave her when they first met, she turned those memories into an everlasting poem. In this world full of constraints and labels, perhaps we all need a journey of stepping out, not leaving a place, but stepping out of the self that has been defined, to embrace broader possibilities.